Socialism is adjacent to communism, and it too calls for the people to own the means of production. And the distinction between socialism and communism doesn't really matter in this context, although they are different things. But in both of them, they don't want private property. They want the government to own stuff for the good of the people. All right. So let's now, if you've got those three concepts set, let's jump to what's happening right now in the United States of America. In the United States of America, we have a system in which our country, our political system, and our freedoms are under attack, not from the left. The communists are not causing a problem in the United States right now. And just FYI, they never have. They have never had the numbers in the United States as those people on the far right, who always complain that anything that the American people want is communism or socialism, and therefore it's taking us to down the road to authoritarianism. And that has always just been, sort of a boogeyman rhetoric. And I've talked a million times about where we got that, but I'm not going to go into that today. All right. So in the United States, our liberal democracy, and liberal democracy is a democratic system that protects individuals and their ability to become the people that they want to be. And in the United States of America, until about 1900, not really, but until about 1900, the idea was you wanted to keep government small because if it got big, it would infringe on freedom. And once you got the rise of major corporations and industries in the United States in about 1870, late 1860s, early 1870s, people started to recognize that if you had a corporation like U.S. Steel, and you had somebody like Andrew Carnegie who was able to treat his workers terribly and so on, you needed to have a big government to protect individuals against the concentration of wealth. So beginning in around the turn of the century and really in the early 20th century, you get a period called the Progressive Era in which the government under people like Theodore Roosevelt actively works to rein in the major corporations and the really wealthy guys so that they just don't get everything. And so in our liberal democracy, the idea of liberalism continues to protect the individual, but it argues you need to have regulations and you need to have a basic social safety net. And the government does have to get involved in stuff like transportation or healthcare or education and so on in order to protect that individual. That is now under attack in the United States by those on the right, by those people who are openly embracing the idea of pulling together government and business so they can concentrate wealth and exercise power over the rest of us. And quite literally, if you're watching Donald Trump, he is using the US government to take pieces of US corporations and say, well, the government's going to own a stake in this, and now you have to do what we say. It's not gotten nearly as much press as it ought to have, but that's what's happening there. All right. So in the United States right now, we have the Republican Party, which I'm going to tell you a lot more about in just a minute, has become, it cracked in the 1990s, and it has now become a far right, I'm going to call it a fascist party because it's under the control of Donald Trump, who is openly doing fascist things. So it has moved into that far right that says we're going to get rid of liberal democracy. We're going to stop people from voting. We're going to tell them, we're going to get women back into the home. We're going to do all the hallmarks of fascism. And that's who the Republicans are now. But now if you think about the rest of the people in the United States, you got to remember that most people in the United States right now identify as independents, not as Republicans or Democrats, but as independents.